Hey folks, this is Jay Watson. I just did a tutorial on images. Hopefully that helped you. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on tables. Tables, for some people, they're not a big fan of them, but they're really easy, as I think you will see. They're not difficult at all. So I have my web page from last time. It's called images.html. Hopefully that doesn't mess you up at all. Above my image, where I started the figure, I'm going to go ahead and just throw in a table. And so to start a table, you just type table. That's it, table. And then we're going to type the closing tag, table. Inside here, we need to use a tag called TR, okay? And what TR stands for is table row. And make sure you tab out your code. And you know what? I want 3 rows, so I will do this. Okay, I don't know where that came from. Okay, so we have 3 rows here, and now I'm going to type things in these rows. I'm going to actually put individual cells. Okay, so just as if you were looking or working with some kind of spreadsheet program, and you have your rows, and then you have your individual cells. Well, TR, that would represent the rows that stretch horizontally across the page. And then we have our individual cells, that will essentially create our columns. And so let's do those now. And those, we use the TD tag, table data is what that stands for. So let's go ahead and in the first cell, let's list food, pizza. In the second cell, let's list something fun like football. In the last cell, let's list something like, I don't know, outdoors, trees. I don't know, that's random. And so, and then in our next row, what we want to do, because this would represent, let's save this and I'll show you what's happening here. Refresh. And it's up here. So you can see here's our table row that's stretching horizontally, and then our first cell is pizza, our second cell is football, and our third cell is trees, and this is all in that one row. So now our next TR tags, which represents the next row, we're going to add cells to that, and then I'm just going to cheat here. You probably don't need to cheat because you need to get used to typing code. So I'm just going to copy this, Command C, Command C. Okay, and so let's replace this with a food, steak. Let's change this to basketball, and this to, I don't know, in the world, flour, right? Flour's not right. Here, let's change this to, I don't know, cake. And let's change this to soccer. Let's do soccer. Be global. And then, I don't know, shrub. It really doesn't make sense. But the point is you can see how tables are used to organize data, and I just have a trial version of Sublime. So now I've saved this, Control S, Command S for me, and you can see how this shows up here. We have a very simple table that is organizing our information. In the first column here, which is created with our table rows and our table data tags, we have pizza, steak, and cake, all foods, right? And then we have football, basketball, and soccer, and then trees, flowers, and shrubs. And there are a lot of different ways to organize this, and the tables have a lot of functionality. And there is actually a decent bit to learn, but this is the basics. Now, tables used to be how individuals would lay out web pages, and you very well will encounter web pages that are laid out with tables. Like they actually, the web page is a giant table composed of tables, and honestly it was like a mess of code, and yeah. And so one of the things they did do, and I'll go ahead and include in here, is they would always use these HTML attributes to actually control the look of their tables, of their web pages. And so one of these that you really shouldn't use anymore, that we'll use CSS, but I'll go ahead and show you, is using a border, the border attribute. And so we can give this a border of 1. And this is how it looks. And so it may be helpful for you to initially to kind of see how it's laid out. Here's the thing, is that you'll use CSS to do that, and we'll get into that later, because HTML controls the structure of your document, and CSS is going to control everything about how it looks. And trust me, it's so much better. If you're maybe an old school designer refreshing things and you remember some of the old code, like BG color, where you give things a background with HTML and all that good stuff, and I'm going off on a rant and I apologize. Trust me, CSS is better, and we'll get into that soon. But let's do one more thing real quick. There's also this tag. Let's create another row above this. There's also this tag called a table header tag, and that's just TH. And by default, and so let's put foods here, and here sports. By default, it is emboldened and centered. Okay, whereas your regular table data tags are actually to the left. So sports, and then I don't know, plants, and save this. And the best way is for you to see what's going on here. So you can see we have a table header here, and again, tables, you will see more about that, and I will probably do another tutorial, but I honestly want to wait till we get into some CSS. But this is the basics of how table works. Practice creating it yourself. That's the only way you get better at coding, is you just got to code, and then it all starts to come together. So we have our table header tags, which default is centered vertically and horizontally. Default for this is to the left. And so, and of course, this is also emboldened, the table header by default. And of course, we'll use CSS to change all this. You know, use fonts, size, all that good stuff. I'm finished, and I'm sorry I ranted. I apologize.